Hello and welcome to another overview here of all of our analytics today. This will deal with analytics from both the Essentials of Social Media textbook, but also the Content Marketing textbook. I have decided to combine these because really we are going to go fast through this. This is normally I try to put chapters uh, in certain segments so that they are usable for classes into the future. And even though I've only been recording these all here in the last 60 days here for the fall 2022 semester, I've decided this is a special occasion where I'm going to go pretty quickly. I'm just going to go over the key things for this specific social media and digital marketing course. So I've used the slide deck from chapter 14 in the content marketing courseware. These are all available on Canvas. But I've also integrated the one big graphic that we are going to utilize in the Essentials of Social Media Marketing textbook. That's chapter 18. Now, this is going to be the last video ahead of the midterm. There's not going to be a ton of videos after this because most of the chapters are going to largely focus around the work that you'll be doing for your final project. As such, most of the videos will also be more specific to real world applications and not having exam implications. But having said that, there are a lot of slides in this presentation. I'm only going to go through really the big things that you need to know for next week's exam. Now, before we start, I've been using the term KPIs pretty quickly, pretty loosely throughout the semester. And in case you're not familiar, key performance indicators is what KPI stands for. These are the things that you use to really measure your performance in social media and in digital marketing in general. Now, KPIs don't mean everything. It just means the top 3 to 5 metrics that you can measure that are going to be the most important for your strategies. Now, KPIs, they're going to be different for different organizations, and they largely focus on that. They're more about the bigger goals, which we're going to get to momentarily. But when you think about KPIs, you're going to think about what are the numbers that are going to be smart. And you've likely seen the SMART goals before. As MBA students, this probably has cropped up at least 3 times throughout your time as students. But it's important that KPIs are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely. All of those lovely acronym adjectives, if you will. But at the same time, it's actually pretty important because if you are setting your KPIs for your project, for any business, if they're not these things, it's going to be setting yourself up for failure and also could lead to some really bad ramifications as it pertains to your position. As we have discussed, or as I've discussed on the introductory page for this week, a lot of the C-suite does not understand the importance of social media or its impact on the bottom line. Now, social media often does not have an impact, or at least the organic social media side does not have an impact on the bottom line for a lot of organizations. And as a result, you are left trying to piece together a very complex puzzle and tell a story that can be a little bit confusing if they're not familiar, if the higher ups aren't familiar with the larger marketing strategy and what these KPIs mean. Now, I'm not going to go through how to measure analytics today. This set of slides is really more important for you if you are getting ready to review the analytics for your company. Native analytics is just talking about the numbers that are local to the actual CMS platform that you use for your website. Social media analytics is looking at native analytics as well. So that's if you go to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, pull the numbers from them. Content analytics as well. I mean, you're going to have to look at various platforms for that. Something like YouTube, Spotify, those are more for the specific videos or podcasts. On the flip side, if you look at something like email marketing, you got to look at like a MailChimp. For this project, you're not needing to go into those. Although if you have a YouTube channel, I would highly recommend integrating those. Now, here we go in terms of deciding which metrics to measure. And we're going to actually come back to this because I dropped this slide from the Essentials of Social Media Marketing courseware right into the middle of the presentation. And this is what I really wanted to talk about first today. So the ESSM, the social media chapter, really gets into the weeds about some different analytics, and it also shows you how to use Google Analytics, which is really helpful if you haven't used it before, because you will need it for your final project. But for the purposes of the midterm exam, this is probably the only thing you're going to need out of that chapter. But this is important. There's several questions about this too that go off script. These are questions that I've written myself, and they do not come from the chapter quiz like many of the others do for the midterm. But let's start big. Let's start with goals. You look there on the left, goals is the broadest thing, the broadest marketing strategy. If you had to sum up what the larger marketing strategy for the organization is in one statement, it would be that. And they're using the Bowie Supply Company. That is Stukent's made up company for their simulations that they do. So just roll with it. There's a backpack company. It's fake. So if the goal, the larger marketing goal is to increase brand awareness, that is a larger marketing goal. That's not the organization's goal, because the organization wants to sell backpacks. And it's not specific to the digital marketing goal. It's also not specific to social media. If you're in social media, I mean, sure, this is great, but this is not a social media goal specifically. This is much bigger than that. Now, the objectives that go into the goal are the numbers that you are going to utilize in order to meet that goal. Now, when you say objectives, generally when you have an objective, there is a goal. There is a goal in mind. So the way I like to think of it is these are tactical goals with specific numbers that you are trying to hit. Now, when I say numbers you're trying to hit, I usually mean percentages. And I always think that objectives need to live in terms of percentage of growth or decline, depending on what it is that you're looking for. A number that you might want to decline is like negative tweet responses or something, or lower bounce rates on your website. But as in terms of objectives, you look at all these numbers on this example have percentages. You don't want to put straight numbers on here because there's no context. There's no actual proportional growth, and you don't actually know how that's improving. That's also something that you can use year over year or time period over time period, depending on what that is. Maybe it's a 30-day time period. Maybe it's a 60-day. Maybe it's 6 months, 1 year, whatever. These can then be repeated year after year. So if you had 50 followers going into October, and your goal is to grow your Instagram following by 150%, then that will get you up to, let's see, 125 followers. Because if it's 100% growth, that would get you up to 100, and then 150% would be 125. But then at the end of November, say November, you want to do the same thing. You want 150% growth. So that'll take you up to what, 250, 325-ish, I think. That sounds right. We'll go with that. Almost. It's less than, it's like 212 or something, whatever. But you can see where I'm getting at here. These are percentages. And additionally, this isn't just social media. This is a really important part. If we look back to the content marketing stuff here today, the next slide is really going to show you how objectives are not just limited to social media. If you did social media in a vacuum, you would never really get to see its true impact on the business. And that's really what the goal is here. Our goal for this goals, objectives, metrics slide. So you want to be able to show the impact of your efforts on a larger marketing strategy, because it needs to be assumed that the C-suite is familiar with the marketing goals role in the organization. So the CEO says, okay, I understand the value of brand awareness for Bowie Supply. Great. How is social media contributing to that? Well, I have these objectives that are going to help contribute to that. If we grow our Instagram following by 150%, that helps with brand awareness. I think that's a tangible number. Perhaps you're getting more engagements across all social media platforms. Now, remember, engagements, those are likes, comments, shares, retweets, things like that. By 50%, that's that's greater brand awareness. 100% more traffic to the website, that's definitely brand awareness, because people are getting familiar with the company. And then also generating an increase in sales from social media. Now, that is more than brand awareness. That is both brand awareness and sales. But you'll notice that that's not the only thing here. Now, when I first started teaching this course back in 2017, the what I was told and what I kind of believed at the time was that social media has only one of two goals. You either drive brand awareness or you drive revenue. Now, since then, I have changed my attitude on that. I think there's a lot of other things that go into it. You look at the airlines that I've talked to at length, and all of them just use Twitter for customer service. And I do believe customer service has a role. Additionally, many companies have started using things like LinkedIn and Instagram as an internal recruitment tool, where I don't really care about brand awareness as it pertains to leads. I really care about it as it pertains to people that are applying for our jobs. And companies that are in a growth mindset are going to need to add good talent. And as part of that, you're going to really need to make sure that you are spending some time building up your brand to the people who don't want to buy but want to work. So that's also been another element. There are some other things, some other goals for brands on social media. I'm not going to get into all those, but or I should say, yeah, for larger goals, I should say. But that's really how I look at social media, is that you have all these numbers that go into social media's impact. But social media's impact also means that these are numbers that need to be directly correlated to social media. So there is one issue. I do take issue with one number here in the objective section. And that is the third one. That is this one right here. Generate 100% more traffic on website. That should actually say generate 100% more traffic on website from social media. If you've ever used Google Analytics before, you'll know that you can look and see where traffic comes from. And not just the websites, but also the mediums, the channels. And there's generally four big ones. There's organic, which is how many people just go to the website, like type in the website. There are referrals, which are links from other websites. There is search, which is Google, Bing, other places like that. And then there's social. Now, sometimes some Google Analytics platforms are set up where paid social and organic social are separated. Other times they're not. It really depends on how the Google Analytics platform is set up. We're going to pretend today like those are separated. And organic social can bring X number of visits to the website. That's really important because if you just look at generating 100% more traffic on website in general, there's like 10 different things that can go into that. Email marketing, organic traffic, organic search, referrals, all these ads, all these different things can contribute. So when you look at objectives, those need to be very specific to social media and not just, they can't have confounding variables that contribute to that. Now let's move on to metrics. Metrics are the actual raw numbers that go into the objective. So you'll see an objective, you see grow Instagram followers by 150%. Okay, what was that actual number? If I said it was 150% of 50 is 75, I need to add 75 new followers. Those are my metrics. So if I am doing this monthly, the metrics are always going to change because the percentages won't change, but the numbers should if the percentages are growing at the rate that you want. So as I mentioned before, we had 50 followers on October 1st. By November 1st, we want to have grown that follower number by 150%. That would mean on November 1st, our number of new followers is 75. But then on December 1st, if we want to keep this number up, that number needs to be well over 200. Because at that point, 150% of 125 is more than 125. It's actually I don't want to do math on the top of my head, but it's over 100. It's like 170, 167. I don't know. But you'll see like that metric changes over time. The objectives are going to remain the same. The metrics are going to change, and the metrics also need to correspond to the objectives. If you cannot connect a metric to an objective, then it shouldn't be here, because these metrics are your KPIs. These are your raw KPI. I mean, these are too, but these are your raw number KPIs that you're going to be constantly measuring. And if a KPI cannot be directly correlated to an objective, or at least one objective, then you are stuck. And I would say, get rid of it, get it out of the metric list. But that is your overview of goals, objectives, and metrics. Now, I'm going to get through this last slide. There are a lot of other slides in this presentation. There are creating analytics reports, all sorts of different things, types of reports. vanity metrics, things like that. Then there's this last slide about turning recommendations into practices. That's all well and good. If you do have questions about that, I am happy to talk about that. Those are that's kind of some of my specialty is being able to not just create an analytics report, but then be able to report it to the higher ups. Some data visualizations. Now, Content Marketing Institute created this graphic years ago, and it still stands today as I think pretty useful. The three that you're really going to need to care about for next week are the top three: brand awareness, engagement, and lead generation. Having said that, though, it's good to know what the bottom three are just in general: sales, customer retention, upselling, cross-selling, things like that. So you can look at this box as also being social media goals. You can say, hey, I need more leads from social media. I need sales from social media. I need customer loyalty from social media, because all of these have common metrics from social media, or at least they can be applied to social media stats. So look at brand awareness, pretty much in line with what we had talked about before and what was on the last slide. Engagements, same things. Again, these are actions that people take. Lead generation, form completions and downloads, email subscription. But the one thing to remember under all of these common metrics is when there is a metric that is included that is not an action on social media. So an action on social media is like shares, tweets, right? Though that's social media. When there are metrics that are not native to social media, web traffic, form fills, email subscribers, kind of the same thing. Average time on page, things like that. Those are all required to have a tie-in to social media. Now, like I mentioned before, it's as easy as saying, hey, download, let's say downloads, right? You have a download on your website from chapter 8. These need to be downloads that can be attributed to social media, not in general. If it was just general, then now you are looking at just content marketing goals, and these are larger, not just social media things. Because remember too, if there's a CEO looking at this, right? Say your goal is brand awareness. It's this first one here at the top, and these are your metrics. Say you can use all these, whatever. The CEO could look at that download number. You could go to the CEO and be like, hey, we're doing really well on social media. The company has gotten 500 new downloads over the last 30 days. And the CEO could go, oh, that's very nice. Yes. Now, did those 500 come from your social media activities, or did they actually come from this email that we sent to 10,000 people asking them to download the document? Because the way I see it as the CEO is we don't actually need social media to send out an email to subscribers who we also didn't get from social media. Now they're downloading and now they're going to become customers, and I don't see the value of social media at all. Then you're left on the other side of the room or the other side of the Zoom call, kind of dumbfounded and unsure. But at the same time, he or she is right, or they are right. You need to be able to show specifically social media's impact. As you probably have learned at some point in your high school or undergrad career, correlation does not equal causation. So you need to get that causation for social media. How did social media cause these things? How did social media cause brand awareness? That is the number one goal for you as a social media marketer, in showing your worth and showing your team's worth. As I mentioned in the page for this week, the introduction, social media marketers like myself, we've been around for a long time. A lot of you have been working in social media for a while. You have as well. And we are at a point now where if I was to apply for a social media position, say it's a social media director position, not an entry level, this is for experienced social media marketers. I'm going to walk into that room and I'm going to demand a salary that is pretty high compared to what I would have asked for as an entry level social media marketer 10 years ago. And as a result, the C-suite is going to look at me and say, why should we give you this money? We don't see any value in social media. How is this going to impact our bottom line? How is hiring you and this budget that you have recommended going to be a fiscally sound decision for the business? I need to be able to show in my resume, first off, and in the interview, that I can actually impact the bottom line. Now, I have ways, and I've acquired this over a long time and talking to a lot of people. I can come up with ways to show that that brand awareness goal is actually worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is not for this video here today. If you're interested in learning how to do that, please reach out to me. I'm happy to do a one-on-one with you. It's really hard for me just to describe when I'm just talking to the computer, but it's possible. And that's what the greatest social media marketers can do today. You see small handful of social media marketers that are also public figures. People, I mean, Gary Vee, that's the extreme. If you think about other people, you might see like a social media lead for Nike or something, and she's making $150,000, $200,000. She didn't just get there by writing some fun tweets and getting a lot of retweets or going viral. She was able to show that going viral led to some sort of business opportunity or growth that she could show on the bottom line through these metrics, some combination of metrics that then met some of these goals or exceeded these goals and led to true growth for the business, where the business, the C-suite, the executives looked at that and said, man, we cannot afford to lose this person. This person is worth their salary in spades. We need to give them a raise. We need to get them an elevated stature. These people are worth so much. That's really the difference between an entry-level social media marketer and somebody that is much more advanced and can elevate themselves through up their career really quickly. That upward mobility can only be done by showing your worth from a fiscal standpoint. CEOs, CFOs, COOs, they don't see the stuff that happens here at this level. They only see that your tweet got 500 retweets or that your LinkedIn post on the company page got 25 comments. Woo! But they're not going to care unless they see a tangible difference in the business itself. So that is your task. And I hope that this video is a little enlightening, helps you a little bit. Again, I got to where I am today because I was able to do this. I figured out early on, hey, I can't just say that we saw a 20% increase in web traffic. I need to be able to show how social media impacted that and then how all of that impacted the bottom line. You can do that. You're going to have limitless potential in terms of your superiors. And one day you will be the superior talking to and hiring these new social media people. You'll be the one in charge of the bottom line, and you'll be the one saying, how can you, the new social media hire, impact this business on the bottom line? I hope this was helpful for you today. As always, please feel free to reach out. Exam is next week. And as always, any questions, send me an email. I am happy to share any sort of additional detail if I was not clear here today. And I look forward to hearing your feedback on all of this here.